I have so many ideas what I can we can speak about, to be honest. Like you're such an amazing person, and like personally as well. It's I've been thinking like that was a great question for me. Sorry, I'm turning attention towards myself as an agency
Yeah.
owner. Like where to get leads, where like how to do projects, where do I bring value, like where I can 10x someone's business. But the most important question for me, like what's my own thing, like 20-year plan, essentially, like where you want to go. And this way you can fluctuate somewhere towards your goal and what kind of companies you want to be working with. And I don't have any projects in KidTech. Like that there is a thing that is called KidTech,
Okay.
right?
It's
Yeah,
like
and
different than edutech. It's just like whatever kids need, not necessarily
it's
education.
it's 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 whatever kid neck. Yeah, it's there is an edutech that was and that's filled with like coaching courses and like all of that, like platforms for communities and like growing education, universities, learning management systems. That's edutech. But what I really care about is kids tech because like how you lead the and my project of my dreams where you can help nurture kids relationships with technology and between each other. How do you lead them into the unknown of the what we don't know what's going to happen, and like how do we do this with our children. So and that's why this conversation is fascinating to me, and for everyone that's watching. Who's watching us, would it be
That's right.
like I will try to introduce you, that's okay. How
Absolutely.
does it
Yeah.
sound?
I'm curious if your definition of kid tech is kind of a more like a holistic version of kids instead of I'm curious if it seems like education, ed tech is uh already a large tent because there's so much that goes into it. It could be kids ed tech maybe is what we're talking about, but does your technology do more than educate?
um well, my technology doesn't exist, of course. There is like it's about everything essentially comes to life and comes to changing some behaviors and adapting some behaviors to leverage them to something great in the future. Like helping light the bulbs and helping connect people, see the dots, connect the dots, manipulate the dots,
Yeah,
go outside of the dots and whatever. So that's almost the philosophical question. That's
that's totally my territory. I love philosophy.
of course I understand. So, would it be okay if I start officially the
Yeah,
podcast thing
by
or
all
the
means,
recording,
wherever and whenever you want to start officially.
sure. So, welcome again, whoever's watching. Today, I have my dear co-founder, my dear friend, Dwayne Johnson, who is not just a great person, a great programmer, but what lead us there is that he's has been involved with several projects that revolve around the future of everything, which is our children and how they develop. And our project together was about nurturing online connections better. And it was a browser metaverse called Realm, which which we outsourced eventually. But right now, what we're looking at is how do we combine the modern technical landscape and make it work in education and for children. So, Dwayne, would you comment on that? Like maybe you tell a little bit about the story that led you to this point and the highlights.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess I'll touch briefly on Realm. It's kind of the past now, although it's open source. If anyone wants to use it, it's available on GitHub, RELM, and it's the whole point of its existence was trying to connect people through the screen, right? How can you reach out into the real world through the screen and feel
Yeah.
connected with someone?
Yeah.
This was especially true during COVID when many of us were experiencing isolation and disconnection. So the question we asked was, can we use regular technology to help people connect through the screen? And the best we could come up with at that time was a metaverse in the browser that allows you to non-verbally and verbally communicate. So it's got audio and video. You have an avatar. You connect through sitting together, being able to participate in the same world, building the same world together. These types of activities are meant to draw people together, even though there's a screen separating you. So that was the intention, and that was the project. I think it was successful in many ways, even financially to some degree, but then not in the rocket ship way that
Yeah.
most startups hope to be successful. So
And
I've
I
since
think we did connect to a few lives, and we helped a few lives connect,
yeah,
specifically like and I'm really proud of our work, and like but mostly your work, to be honest, in that regard, that some patients, cancer patients, some psychological support groups were able to successfully use our platform, and I think that some of them are still using it. Is this correct?
that's right. Yep. Yep. Still studying memorization techniques, mnemonics. There's many different uses for it. Quite cool.
Amazing. So, and like human connection online, and here we're trying to speak like the general topic of today is children, and how do they connect online, like how do they educate and connect online, how do they um not go crazy online
Yeah.
maybe.
Well, and can we talk about AI in this
Of
context?
course, of course. And AI is the major part of the shift that's going on right now. Like before we go deeper into that, maybe you can add a few things about the project that you worked with, because you worked with the guy who worked with Elon Musk on his school, and then that project led to some other projects.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, so I was an engineer at Synthesis, which is a company that helps with primarily the soft skills of learning. So helping kids to become team leaders, putting them together into a game. It was custom built games so that they could organize themselves around a particular problem and then solve it together or solve it by competing. And it worked really well. There were a number of things that we really enjoyed about it. I think there was a transition point though that I think many people in the company noted that this was a big pivot, and um, uh, I'm still kind of neutral on it. I don't know how much I disagree with it from a business perspective, but it was an interesting pivot where we decided as a company we were going to move away from teachers. So um, the product that we were working on had the potential to be completely automated. Kids can meet kids, they can provide leadership to each other, they can train each other, and then they can compete together. And we had coaches in the background. So if you imagine the kids are all playing with their
yeah,
cameras on and the microphone on, so they're attempting to be present with one another. And as a result, as a company, we had coaches who were watching them, or at least
yeah,
able to intervene if there's something wrong. And so we did that. And it was interesting. I think the experience of the pre-coach pivot was a much more community experience. The kids had a sense of culture that was I don't I'd say guided by the teacher, not necessarily imposed, but guided by the teacher, and that allowed them to have a space where improvement could be made. Not all kids are going to come in with the best of manners and being able to
yeah,
give other kids a learning opportunity. So the teacher, I think, provided a pretty important catalyst for growth there. And afterwards, while it did have better scale potential, so more kids could be impacted after we moved away from teachers, I think the sort of pop in every once in a while coaching style to intervene when something's off, I think it changed the culture quite a bit. And I think kids need a little bit more hands-on, especially like we're talking 7 to 12, something
yeah.
like that. They need
They
more
don't behave.
hands-on. They don't behave, and they don't know what to expect, and they need somebody to be an expectation setter. So yeah, that's kind of learned experience through that, through synthesis and through being an engineer there. Wonderful company, and I loved all the people I worked with. But that decision was pretty pivotal in the course of my time there.
And yeah, and I think originally you were one of the engine like before synthesis, you worked with uh, education technology in some other companies, and right now you're also working in an
Yep.
education technology company aimed at children.
I don't know if
And
your listeners would know about Canvas. That's a very common learning management system for high schools
sure,
uh, and universities. That was a project I worked on for 4 years. So yeah,
yeah,
it's like the boring education technology. It just manages
it's
your grades and
some
yeah, lets you see
sometimes
PDFs.
boring works.
Yeah.
Like it that was a joke the other day. Like people say, like Alex, why are you working with startups? Maybe you should work with a boring company. And then I remember that just several weeks ago, I had a request from a company that literally does the boring part, that boring holes in the ground. So it
Oh, yeah, like Elon Musk boring company. That's funny.
kind of thing, yeah. So and which leads us to right now when you're also working with a technology company. Can you tell like a little bit about that, like whatever NDA
Yeah.
allows?
Yeah,
What
for sure.
is exciting?
It's called SchoolAI.com, and we are taking a teacher first approach here. So our AI is not intended to circumvent a teacher, it's trying to complement and empower them. The AI itself is for the student. So if you imagine ChatGPT like an LLM conversation with with a computer, the student is interacting with the computer, but they're doing so through a platform that the teacher can um, customize for the student, monitor, and intervene if there's something wrong. So we have alerts, things that if something is dangerous, self-harm, anything like that, we would report that to the teacher, and then they can use their wisdom and judgment to decide, oh, they're just goofing off or whatever, right? That's
Hmm,
that's an aspect of it that I really appreciate. I think another way of looking at this is that AI in its current form is like a mini intelligence, right? It's not
right.
human level intelligence. It's like it's good at certain things. Language in particular right now is the thing that OpenAI and others have enabled. Um, but education for the whole mind and the whole body, like a kid needs a lot to be able to reach their potential. And the wisdom of a teacher, the lifelong experience that they bring is necessary for that growth. And I think parents are necessary for that growth. So the LLM here is playing an
No
intermediary. It's
shit. I'm sorry. No shit. Fair. Like that's sorry. I will be intervening to make it more fun, a little bit. Uh,
yeah,
you said parents, and I'm like, it brings a lot of emotion because like people are saying like, would AI harm like, and the answer to almost everything is like parents. So sorry, and
can you can you
like
keep going a little bit? Are you
how would AI harm our children? Like AI and common and children today are basically using AI in their current curriculum themselves, starting
right?
from
Yeah,
I don't know. My kid is 10. Like from the moment basically they are able to use a computer, and that happens when they're 7, 8, or 9 years old. They start utilizing AI and they will do everything they can there. So, and the question is like, would it harm them? Would it not harm them? How do we facilitate it? How we manage that? And
yeah,
almost all of the answers come down to, like own it as a parent. So
mhm,
it's not just a conversation between institutions, but it's a conversation between like about education. It's about parenting,
yeah.
essentially, educated
It's a
parenting.
really interesting take. So you're saying um, even the school itself may not really have the tools or wherewithal to understand how this applies to the student, but the parents would ultimately be responsible.
Uh, but yeah, as a parent, like I homeschool, not just homeschool, they go to various online, like and offline, whatever courses, but I'm fully responsible. What school are they attending? Like among the, like I might not have the financial capability to send them to whatever place, but I still can select something. I can frame some other things. So I take ownership to what's going on. Like, and I take, so it's not. Yeah, so I'm sorry,
What's
like
your,
you just said like
what's
maybe
your,
parents. That was my trigger.
that makes sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're saying essentially it's the core is parents.
Yeah,
Um, the reason I said maybe parents is because I think you're a little bit exceptional. Uh, Not all parents take such ownership over um, the time that's spent uh, helping a child to grow. A
sure.
lot of kids spend, 6 hours, maybe more, at school, and um, that may not be enough. The amount of time that the parents have with the child may not be enough to significantly influence how much they use or don't use AI. So um, I think there's sort of a big education rethink happening right now around how
Exactly.
much schools are involved, how much should they be, um, what tools and resources we have as parents to guide and make that a better, maybe better education. What I learned over COVID though was that I'm I have paltry expertise in educating children. I tried homeschooling for 4 months, and it was like, oh my gosh, like curriculum, there's so much that you can do, and how do you pick it? How do you know what's best? How do you
Yeah.
become acquainted with the resource so that you can teach it in the best possible way? I learned to respect teachers a lot more.
And not just the teachers, it's the methodologists, the people who are going through the programs over and over and over and trying to optimize them. Like, and they have a lot of bureaucracy towards them, but they still, and yeah, that is a majorly challenging task. And
Yeah,
it's more so like I wonder what they feel today. So let's go back to the point where I was very obnoxious and stopped you. So
of
you were
course.
saying, yeah. So you were saying about that part that schools are trying to take ownership here with like the platform, like the one that you were working with, and I was wondering if that's like what you feel about it, and is that a school thing, like people going physically to a school, or is that also an online thing? So it's a
Good
B2G kind
question.
of
Yeah.
startup.
So we see both scenarios. Mostly we're selling to school districts. So the majority of our customers are going to be in person in school
Sure.
type of education experience. But we have also seen, uh, I I guess I'll call them alt schools. I'm not sure exactly how to describe, but online only schools, different types of schools
Mm,
that use this tool to help augment their education paradigm. And they they have different needs, right? Like if you're in a classroom and you know your students and you have a uh, classroom style and guidelines and rules, kids behave in a certain way. When you have no, if it's all hands off and only online, you
mm,
have sort of like a limited amount of capability to understand what's going on and
yeah.
probably only a limited amount of like face-to-face time, right? How much time are they going to actually spend talking to the teacher? It's a different type of setup. So we do have this, we call it mission control, where um, the teachers or monitors or whoever's involved can pay attention to a lot of kids at once, what they're doing
Mm.
with the AI, and then intervene when necessary.
How What was surprising? I mean, in the very beginning of the conversation, which we didn't record, you said like it's such exciting times when you're working
Yeah.
on a software and that it surprises you. So what is
Yeah. Well,
surprising?
so we got some AI trying to give the thumbs up and thumbs down. I don't know if you saw that on your screen. Um, Somehow it detected a thumbs down and gave you that. Uh, we didn't we didn't intend to build a product that flags kids who might be abused. But
Hmm.
we are uh, playing a role in that right now, kind of by accident, in the sense that um, when a student divulges more information with an AI than they do with their teacher, then that's being monitored by the AI and flagged by the
Mm,
AI to be brought to the teacher's attention. It's a pretty weighty responsibility. So in one case, we had a student who, um, this is happening all the time, but I'm using one student as an example. Um, he was talking online, talking to the AI in the classroom. Um, the AI asked what he was going to do after school, and he said, um, "I don't want to go home. It's not safe for me to go home." And the
mm,
conversation opened up, and the alert was given to the teacher, and the teacher, decided I need to talk to this student. What's going on?
right.
And that
Interesting.
conversation led to calling Child Protective Services for that particular student. And of course, there's like a lot of balance of things going on, right? Like in what case is that right? In what case is it wrong? But teachers are always making these judgment calls. And I think I leave it in their good hands to be able to do that. So yeah, the AI is surprising in the sense that we didn't build a system that was meant to do that, but here we are.
Mm. That is very interesting. And this opens up another challenging question because as modern models, like let's say no, not everyone in the world has access to a platform like yours, like meant for teachers and who are very smart utilizing the capabilities modern AI and they can track this usage. But right now we have GPT 4.0, which is which you can just download it and play with it. And I've seen statistics that in some cases children were talking to their AI companion for 12 hours or let's say 10 hours a day because it's easier to not socialize when you have someone who listens to you, someone who accepts you, someone who no one is tracking your conversation essentially, which is not the case with the company you're working with. I hope the child knew that this conversation is being tracked so that it was his consensual thing to
Right,
talking this way. So this is also a challenge that AI is stealing our children and
right.
stealing from the social. And I would say that even with synthesis, like what you were describing sounds like the playground to me, just go out and play
Yeah,
with other kids.
yeah,
And the question is, does someone facilitate the game? Like who facilitates the game, who facilitates the rules? And
yeah.
it might be the culture of the kids in the play. And we are
Yeah.
traveling the world and we see children on playgrounds in Turkey, in Spain, in like whatever part of the world we're at. And like how culture makes them play and that's their facility. So coming back to to the question, what do you think should we as parents do to kind of parents and teachers maybe when we know that kids have this confidant and AI to talk to?
Yeah, it's a great question. I want to circle back through a comment you made. You said AI is stealing our children, and that's a really interesting perspective because I think it's both true and not true at the same time.
Sure.
In the sense that we now have competition with an intelligent-ish thing that
Yeah.
can parent children, right? Like I'm not saying it's a good parent, but parents now, anyone who has a computer, have competition with something outside of them to be a good parent to their children. And I think in some cases that's good, and in some cases that's bad. So the good case I'll highlight first. There are a lot of kids in school who are just languishing. Like the teacher has to go with the worst student who is disrupting the class, take them outside into the hallway, talk to them. Meanwhile, none of the students are
Oh yeah.
actually talking, listening to the lesson, being able to learn, having their needs met. They're probably the better students who are
Yeah.
being ignored and languishing right now in that scenario because somebody, required the teacher's attention urgently. Um, I think it's kind of a tragedy, right? That uh,
Mm,
a teacher who has all of the best intentions has to deal with most of the worst things, and the best students, those who are most capable of learning, have to just wait or maybe,
mm,
use a worksheet or an assignment or something like that. Um, I think there's an opportunity here where an AI, a guide that's maybe not Socrates, but at least something capable of guiding their thinking, especially when it has guardrails. This is an amazing opportunity for one-on-one development of an individual child's mind as we customize it and build for their particular case, right? Like we had one teacher who figured out that one of their special needs students loves Marvel comics. So
mm,
it's just a one-liner for the teacher to say, adapt this math lesson to Marvel Comics, right? And then
mm,
now you've got a dialogue going where the kid's engaged and interested, and they can keep going. Um, that's not a lot of work for a huge amount of leverage. So
mm,
I can see the case for the good side where it's like this competition for kids' attention can definitely be a boon to our society and improve our
mm.
children. Um, but now addressing the other side, right? The evil twin side, I think, is also a danger. The AI doesn't have wisdom. It doesn't necessarily inherently have this child's good at heart. So the guardrails are really important. What kind of platform are you using? Is it just an LLM? I mean, there are hundreds of LLMs now, right?
Oh yeah.
Possibly
Oh yeah.
thousands, depending on how you qualify what an LLM is uniquely. And if you just sit down a kid at one of those LLMs, I mean, it could say anything, literally anything, right? How to build a bomb, sex, whatever it is, right? Like there's just all sorts of things that it could do. So I think the short version is that this is a technology and it's a tool, and we need to use it wisely, right? And
Mm.
it can go wrong. So we need to be wiser than that.
Interesting. So two highlights I'm writing down is the first one is hyper person like making even three. The first one is AI can speed up someone's development by being more attentive and more adapting to like once again hyper personalizing, which happens in sales, in marketing as we speak. For example, right now uh, the way I'm writing emails to potential prospects is I'm sending all the data about a company to a website and adding a little bit of my intelligence, and then it gets like a hyper personalized email, which is about the company, not about me, and that's great. And we can do the same in and it what it does, it essentially heightens the engagement rates, multiplies it by imitating a sense of a human connection of someone that cares. So in a sense, AI is a pill that can 10x your caring capability. Like that's the way I see it. And another thing that you mentioned that I don't believe AI is intelligent. Like it's not about belief. But AI is not intelligent. It's a generative tool, so it generates a response based on its parameters. Much more than I do, but so it doesn't have any intelligence in a sense. It just tries to generate response as well as it can. And like who is so like so you and some would feel that guardrails are more or less important and the settings of those are more or less important. And maybe that's the one of the most important things for like if you want to achieve something as a parent, as a teacher, like how do you make sure that this is not harmful? So how returning to the harmful part, how would you do that as a parent? For example, you didn't have the platform, but your child uses AI in school by himself. What would you tell him, or how would you manage it?
Um, so it depends on how much hands-on effort you want to put into that. Um, if you're capable of sort of a fine-grained help to your
Hmm.
child, I would I would say there are a number of things you can do that lets them take advantage of the good parts of each tool and restricts the bad parts. So um, if you're using OpenAI directly as through their interface, there are a number of uh, there are a number of system prompts that you can create that will guide the conversation so that the LLM has some context for the conversation and prevents certain undesirable trails from being trod. So you could say in the system prompt, you were speaking with a child age 10, uh,
Mm,
be safe, be funny, don't talk about X, Y, and Z, right? And now
mm,
you've created a guardrail in OpenAI's chat tool that
mm.
it's not ironclad, but it's going to uh, probabilistically, like with a high probability, prevent certain conversations from going off the rails.
It's interesting. I think like you have a YouTube for kids, which I don't like because it has doesn't like anyway, it exists. And there are like X for kids and Y for kids and Netflix kids account. So I think we might expect sometime in the future some ChatGPT OpenAI platforms to like share your account with a kid. Yeah, and
Yeah.
another thing I was we as a team we work with ChatGPT and we share all the time. Like we share that conversations with each other. So we want to work collaboratively. But the collaboration is not between the child and the teacher, as with the example of the company you're working with. The collaboration is between peers. And we want to, to adapt, like create a tree-like structure of these conversations with AI to, to alter someone's question and see what your response to the same question. So like creating a tree-like experience with AI responses generations. So that is another thing I would want AI to go towards, like kids mode and like collaborative features.
Yeah.
That's because we are already using it collaboratively, and I'm already giving AI to my children to talk about, and I'm not limiting them. Like if he Googles, ways to decapitate someone, like 10 ways to hide a body, like I'm fine with that as long as I have an open relationship and I can discuss this with my child. Like, why the hell are you interested in this, for example, would be a good question. He's fun. Like, but
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So, like, as a parent, can control the level of, like what I feel is right for him to know. Um.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. So, how would another comment like her? The movie Her, which it
Mhm.
has been quoted quite because OpenAI created. Um. What was the actress voice? The actress name
Like
from the
Gwyneth,
movie?
I don't know if it's Gwyneth Paltrow or something.
No, 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 no. That's it's yeah. Anyway, she
Is
played
it
the
Julia Julie Roberts? No.
no, no. She played Black Widow in Marvel
Uh,
movies. The anyway, so she has a sexy voice, and the opening eye voice is like
Scarlett
very very
Johansson?
sim. Scarlett Johansson, thank you very much. And they modeled it for her, and the core of the her movie is that this is an AI that shows that imitates a human connection. And I'm also thinking about a movie which my child really liked, which is called Moon, and it's about essentially a clone who's only on the moon, who is alone, working alone on the moon, without connect, and he longs to the connection to his family, but his only friend, and we think he's not a friend throughout the whole movie, but he ends up being his only friend. He's the AI who really cares about him, and he tries to save him without him knowing that because
Hmm.
he was like so like he basically tries to break his own programming against the corporation in favor of this his so it's a great movie with Sam Rockwell. I love this actor. So we are living in science fiction in a way, and the question is, how do we make AI that does that creates a feeling that he has your best interest at heart. And
Yeah.
a lot of great like half I would argue that more than half of successful products have this human connection at longing at the heart of their success, including OnlyFans, Twitch, and AI as well, as we see now. Like we're bringing that. So what's your take on that? Like, do you see this in
Well,
parenting? Yeah.
when I think about that question, I think about uh what the Stoics thought about friendship, you know. Friendship, a really good friend, not just an acquaintance, not just a passing friend, a really good friend cares about your development as a human being, right? About
Mm,
your character, about who you become and whether you're happy as a person in this world. And I think that's a really high bar. Like it's rare to have a friend of that caliber, right? I think most of America is recognizing that once you're over 40, it's very difficult to make friends, and it's like a loneliness epidemic, right?
mm.
So, so to have that caliber of friend, I think that we have already replaced our social networks with what I call ersatz social networks, right? Like,
Exactly.
we have
OnlyFans.
just yeah, only yeah, it's it's like a worse replacement for the real thing, right? It's
Yeah.
you think you're having a social experience, but you're actually having a longing for an addiction to uh, a social media scroll experience, and you're not actually socializing. So replacing true friendship with an AI, I think is very dangerous. Um, I don't think that uh, the level of intelligence that we are currently at, it may be able to mimic true friendship right now, but it's
Mm.
not true friendship. So I I think it's possible. Like I'm not theoretically against the idea of an AI being a true friend, but I think we're still 20 to 50 years away from that possibility. Like where I would trust something with that level of kinship, right? And ability to reciprocate trust. Yeah.
Yeah, so like the core topic is here, like what do we as parents we can do right now in the changing world of the education? And we've highlighted 2 points. One, AI might feel as a friend, it's not a friend, but people might go that direction and harm their real social development by talking with an AI who seems like really friendly and fun to talk to, for all these reasons. And when and the second is trying to utilize that strength of AI, of being able to hyper personalize, adapt, show, kind of imitate emotions to facilitate real development. And this is a very like thin line. I would be happy
Yeah.
to, to go, because like my personal dream project is about gaming. Actually, it's about like utilizing real games like Civilizations to foster children development while not hindering their progress in other ways of life. Why not just go and make them play outside at the same time? So what is your take on that balance?
I
And yeah.
I think we need to think of AI as enriching, not replacing. If you have a situation where AI replaces parents, friends, even teachers, I think that's a dangerous situation in 2024. Don't let it happen. Um,
Ha-
but but the fact that these tools do have such power, they are compelling. They do connect with us in a way that other interfaces don't, and they can really draw us out in a way that's potentially very helpful. They can lead us down a line of thought that helps us to think through our behavior, think through what we want out of this course or this class or even life itself, And so those sorts of things are helpful. It's just or they can be helpful. It's just if they're used in instead of in lieu of these other normal human relations. I think that's where it gets off the rails. Uh, we have a lot of students who are uh, using school AI as assignments, but I think
Mm,
it's just the beginning. There's there's a real potential for AI to fill the gap where communication among parties may be limited. So, for example, in a school ecosystem, there's a principal, there's a teacher, there's a parent, there's a student. Each of these people have different roles to play and may not have information about what's urgent, what's important, what's on your mind, right? There are different aspects of a of an ecosystem of relationships that I think is a really interesting space where AI could enhance those relationships. If I, as a principal, know that several of my students are having a hard time in one particular class, maybe that's an opportunity to have a conversation with the teacher.
mm,
Um, Maybe the AI could recognize that a student isn't doing very well in this particular subject. Um, they could they could raise this as an issue that the parent and teacher can then talk about in the next parent teacher meeting. So it's sort of like, oh, I see it as like a way of enhancing relationships if we use it well that way.
mm. Yeah, like this all comes down to, how we use the tools and how aware we are, because like I'm sure that I don't know how many schools already have, because methodology takes a long time to develop to, from the government level then put down, and not all schools in all countries have this freedom to experiment as much as fast. And we as parents and our children going to schools, going to online schools, going to regular schools, or uh, I don't know, like 99, like almost no schools, I would expect almost no schools to have that in curriculum. So within that time frame of several years before schools utilize that, once again, maybe what's the advice? What maybe you have some specific guidelines or advice to parents or technology, like maybe people who will be watching savvy in technology. What would you say? Like any best use cases? Because basically, what I would be afraid of, is just my child doing all assignments using UI without putting any thought in, so that hinders his development.
Mhm.
That's what I'm afraid of. Like,
So there in 1997, I believe Gary Kasparov was beaten by Big Blue, right?
yeah.
Chess. And it was a kind of watershed moment where a lot of the world sort of noticed, oh, like computers can do some things that we thought were human level intelligence. Um, I hadn't heard the rest of Gary Kasparov's story. I'm sure there's much more, but related to that watershed moment, after 1997, Kasparov went on to form a new league of chess players uh, called Centaurs. A
Mm,
centaur is a combination of a human and a computer. And a centaur is, as far as I understand it, the best players in the universe. They are better than computers. They are better than humans. A computer-human
mm,
pair exceeds them all. So I think that's the way that we need to think about where we're going. It may not be here now, but I think that's the framing that I would consider for to give to parents when they're thinking about how do I approach this. You want to enable your kids to be centaurs in life,
mm,
in each of the subjects, right? Whether it's emotional intelligence or math or uh, history, right? Like these topics, these capabilities are enhanced by AI. So inside that framing, I think what we would be looking to do is uh, give our kids a leg up, give them opportunities
mm,
to do things that they couldn't do before. My daughter loves drawing. She's really great at cartoon style drawing. She's not
mm.
great at backgrounds. You know,
Mm.
backgrounds suck. It takes a long time. It's a lot of coloring. She doesn't like coloring. So you generate a background, right? You teach your kid if they love this aspect of art, complement their art with that aspect of generative AI. Build these skills together so that you can, who knows? I mean, looking at Sora and the generative AI for video, it looks like we're going to be in a realm where you can almost express anything, right? Like for a budget of $100 or something, you could probably
Yeah.
make a short movie at this point. So that level of like that's orders of magnitude cheaper than what a studio would take to make a video, right? And kids could do that. So I think we're entering an era where we need to think how to couple and combine intelligences, computer and human.
Wow. I didn't know about this entire thing. I will need to Google that now, and that makes me think because I did show all the capabilities of AI to my children, and I maybe not all parents are doing this. So we played with not with Sora because we don't have access yet, but with Sona AI or Suno AI,
Oh, no, yeah.
which are the one that does songs, like
Music.
given half several months ago, and like I've been doing songs since for some occasions just for fun. So the issue is really the how like and kids are not um so the question is like when you're a chess player and you want to be the best chess player in the world, you know you have the goal and you have the tools to assist you in that sense. But children do not want to just do whatever, to just do videos. Like we have the key like the key question here is like how to motivate children to, find out who they are, what they want to do, and then find the right tools to 100x themselves without compromising their overall development. Does it, do you think that it's possible? Do you think that like what is the gap here that we can cross? Like what is the exciting part of this that you think you would like to be working on and with your children and maybe
Well,
yeah,
we're at the very early stage of this, right?
right.
These capabilities, I mean, I was looking on, I was searching on Reddit for AI music, and it was only like 3 months ago where people were saying, it's okay. It's not great, but here's the model if you want to try it. And then like 2 months ago, people were like, generative AI, generative music is going to take over the world. All the bands are going to go away. There's going to be no one paid to make music anymore. And like, it's like obviously that's an overreach. I'm not saying that that's true either, because I think most generative AI is just okay at each of the
Yeah,
things that it does, and so
yeah,
we still have people at the edges of the arts making what's truly worth our time and attention. But all the middle space is being taken up by generative AI, right? Like it can sing, it can play guitar, it can do everything to do with music far better than I can. And I'm just like, I'm in awe at it because I'm not an expert. I don't make music. Um, so I guess the short version is I think our uh I think we have an era here, maybe the next 10 to 20 years, this generation growing up where we're going to be looking at all of the different possibilities with new eyes. There's
mm,
like, uh, you know, what would it be like to do X with AI, right? If I'm a store clerk stocking shelves, what does stocking shelves with AI look like? If I'm learning to ride a bike, what does learning to ride a bike with AI look like? It's just there are all these opportunities to mix and match capability sets that nobody knows yet, right? Like maybe that's a dumb idea. Maybe bikes and AI don't go together, but maybe there's like um maybe there's video games and AI. That seems to make sense. So maybe there's like this opportunity to explore generative video game development without learning to code because uh, you can be a creative director now instead of learn to code and build a game.
yeah.
Different opportunities, different ways of thinking.
That is, by the way, like a colleague of like there is a grandfather, a friend of my father, who gives me basically he wants me to coach his grandson, who is he's a great, he's smart guy. He plays in Counter-Strike tournaments, and he's really smart. But he's going into management university about management. But he wants him to study programming, and he was talking to me about it, and I was thinking like, does he really want to study programming, or needs to study enough just to understand what AI has been? generating for him in terms of code and how to connect this, like the tool, like becoming, like understanding how to use these tools properly. What what would you advise? Like, do you think that kids should study programming now on a deep level or surface level, or like what is your take on that?
Programming's a tough one. There's definitely still value in understanding concepts from programming. I'm not as much sure anymore that it's like it's definitely replaceable at some point, right? Like AI will
Yeah.
replace programming at some point. Um, but that point might still be 10 to 15 years away.
Mm,
And like the coding tools that I'm seeing are like they're powerful, but also in certain really important ways very stupid. So
mm-hmm.
um, there I'm seeing human computer pairings of programmers being much more powerful now. So I would almost approach it as not should I learn to code anymore? It's like yes, you should learn to code with a computer, with an AI. Like uh, the possibility set has only increased what you can do, not decreased it. If you become an expert at how to drive and manage and communicate with an AI while you're programming, you're going to be far better than somebody who's still in 1980s learning to code C. So, yeah, like that direction.
Thanks, I appreciate it. So one final thing, one
Yeah.
final question. Um, what is what is exciting for you right now in in KidTech, in KidTech education?
Mhm.
What are the thing you're thinking about day and night about the future of your children in several years? What do you think? Maybe what is the vision of the future that you think is maybe coming and we need to be prepared for in a good way?
That's a huge question, difficult to end on in 2 minutes.
That's true.
Um, honestly, what I think about most is emotional intelligence. We have great
Mm,
technological leaps forward, but we need emotional intelligence and even a sense of spirituality in our everyday lives that makes us feel like all of this is worthwhile. Because it can be scary. It can be um, it's new. There's a lot of hopelessness in the world, and I think we need to treat each other well and being able to advance in those ways. Um, I think that's what'll pull the world together. It feels like it's flying apart, but I think those are the good old things that bring us together, and we need more of that.
what a great way to end the the conversation. Thank you. That's the great answer. Wow,
Absolutely.
that was great. Thanks a lot. I feel I was blabbering too much. That's a lot to learn for me
Not at
still.
all.
I really appreciate you have finding the time, Dwayne.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Um, I'm looking forward to seeing what else you do too. If you've got a series going, I want to find out more.
What? A
A
series?
series like a podcast.
Oh, yeah, I'm putting something on LinkedIn. It's just a fireside chat. Like I'm basically like my conversations with people are so interesting that I might as well just share them online. I enjoy them. I enjoy asking like for the latest one was a McKinsey consultant who turned a founder and then he was invited to a venture capital fund in health tech. So he created a health tech company and then faced challenges and then he got invited to a venture capital company as as an associate. And he vets other health tech companies and trying to to help them because it's extremely difficult. Well, startups are difficult, but health tech is plus a lot of regulatory issues, but you're trying to change health to the better and basically saving lives. That is exciting story for me, so I invited him. We had a conversation, things like this, and this
Awesome.
like an hour conversation is something that I'm extremely passionate about. And I know you need to run, but just
Yeah.
thanks a lot, and it has been a pleasure. I would love to speak again sometime in the future, like
Yeah, let's
to
catch up
just
again.
sure,
Maybe
amazing.
yeah. 2 or 3 weeks. Um,
Thanks, Dwayne. I know you have
yeah,
to
you
run.
got great to see you
Appreciate
again.
it.
Take care.
Bye bye.